Discipline by Steve Parker. But of course, dear boy, you simply must use the new stainless steel chains. It wouldn't do to have common brown trails of rusted corrosion staining one's dungeon walls. Discipline is a serious matter, after all. Sir Penumbrum Marcus took a sip of tea from his beautiful china cup. The set had been a gift from Queen Quasania some years previous and was especially exquisite. Tasteful gold trim with a delicate flower motif, adorned porcelain so fine you could actually see the sunlight shine through it. The tea, likewise, was very rare and costly, as would be expected from such a distinguished gentleman. He looked across his delicately carved mahogany table to his luncheon guest, who was nodding sagely in agreement with his point about the chains. Adelwood Marbury was the third son of a minor noble whose lands abutted those of Sir Marcus, and a frequent visitor at Mark Hall.
"I quite agree,"
said Marbury in clipped, insipid tones.
"Why, only last week I heard of an escape from the Feltnam's dungeon. Quite a scandal, actually."
"Oh, well, the Feltnams," replied Sir Marcus. "I would expect no better." The two men tittered for a moment, reflecting on their shared moral superiority over their less cultured neighbour to the north, took another sip of very fine tea, and returned to the topic of conversation.
"But of course,"
continued Adelwood Marbury,
"the chains are not all in the serious matter of discipline. We must consider the procurement of securement, as it were."
He smiled wanly at his quip, obviously quite pleased with himself.
"Which do you prefer, Sir Marcus, shackles or straps?"
"Oh, shackles, of course. It simply must be shackles. Straps are so tiresome, and come loose far too frequently for my taste. No, for me, and I believe for every serious gentleman in the field, it is and must be shackles." They nodded knowingly at one another once more, and again took a sip of very fine tea from the very fine cups.
"Of course, for me,"
continued Adelwood,
"it's all about discipline."
"Naturally," agreed Sir Marcus. "Discipline is sacrosanct. Without it, who knows but that the uncultured elements may take over?"
"Indeed,"
responded Adelwood.
"Spare the rod and spoil the child, as they say."
"Oh, I quite agree," said Sir Marcus, as they shared yet another sip of deliciously expensive tea.
"Actually, I heard that was what started the rot at the Feltnam estate,"
divulged Adelwood. "No," blurted Sir Marcus.
"Quite,"
answered Adelwood.
"The mistress there was far too gentle in her ministrations, and refused to tighten the screws, as it were. Discipline got out of hand, which led to the escapes."
"Well, that just goes to show, you see," said Sir Marcus, offering Adelwood a silver tray which bore a selection of delicate treats. "You simply must use shackles, and tightly, too. You cannot show mercy in these cases. Discipline is, after all, a serious matter, and cannot be left to those too permissive to truly enforce it."
"I could not agree more,"
said Adelwood, taking a small pink pastry from the tray and eating it with evident delight.
Delicious, Sir Marcus. Wherever did you get it?"
Sir Marcus smiled a tight, secret little smile, as if concealing one of the great mysteries of the universe. "I was recently fortunate enough to find myself in possession of a very fine chef from one of the colonies. Quite undisciplined, of course, but really very skilled at the crafting of these small, sweet delights." He took one himself, savouring its exotic taste. "Could I tempt you to another?" he said, preferring the tray once more to his guest.
"Oh, no, thank you, but I couldn't possibly,"
said Adelwood, his eyes not once leaving the tray. "Oh, but I insist," said Sir Marcus. "Try the little ones with the currants in. They are quite delightful and not at all heavy on the stomach."
"Well then, if you insist, I must obey,"
said Adelwood, taking the offered sweet with feigned reluctance and devouring it with obvious enthusiasm. Sir Marcus continued. Let the sweetness of the treat allay the tartness of the topic, my dear Marbury, as we move on to the subject of structured striking. Adelwood's brows furrowed slightly, though not so much as to risk a wrinkle creasing his cultured brow.
Ah, yes, the striking. Well, you know my thoughts, he said carefully.
Well known, your thoughts, answered the noble Marcus. But yet, I would ask a definitive statement on which you prefer, the single lash of a simple whip, or the complex cuts of the cat-o'-nine tails?
Well, to that, I'm something of a traditionalist, as you know, and tend towards the former, though I can certainly see the merits of the latter. Transportation, for one. The cat is smaller and can easily be carried upon one's belt whilst touring one's lands, should one feel a need for sudden discipline.
Quite so, interjected Sir Marcus smoothly.
But the depth of strike delivered by the ancient whip lingers longer, I feel, a cutting remark in physical form left upon the flesh as a permanent reminder that discipline is indeed a serious matter.
Oh, very true, answered Sir Marcus. And yet, I feel the pleasure of the smaller instrument can go longer and be more frequent, as it lacks the permanency of the larger tool. I would rather be able to go again every day, rather than elicit a wound which may take months to heal.
I take your point, Sir Marcus. It is well made, responded Adelwood with a small bow of his head.
Well, this has been lovely, but discipline waits for no man, said Sir Marcus, standing up and straightening his leather harness.
Quite,
answered Adelwood, also standing and tightening the straps of his leather hood. They both headed down into the dungeon to be soundly whipped, belittled, and beaten by their servants for the rest of the afternoon. Discipline is, after all, a serious matter.